issuing proposal clarifications and resubmission requests. So this is a common source of confusion when the bids have come in. Okay, what is the difference between a clarification as well as a resubmission? Yeah, and we'll use them for very, very different purposes. Resubmissions will replace the original submission. Okay, the original submission will no longer be valid. Okay, resubmission must be used if you intend to change the price. So if the original price was $1,000 and you had a great negotiation with the supplier and you told them to reduce the price to $800 and they said, sure, fine. You need to issue them a resubmission request so they can update their original bid. Clarifications add on to the existing submission. Okay, you are not able to amend the original submission. So if it's $1,000, it will still be $1,000. If you use a clarification and ask them, can I change to $800? They say, okay, the system will not register this. What are clarifications normally used for? Maybe it is a design RFQ. They have submitted their price, you think it's very good. You can issue a clarification and say, can you send me more examples of your portfolio? Can you send me a history of your clients? Okay, this information adds on to that existing submission. It doesn't change anything in the original submission, but you're asking for more information. In this case, I would use a clarification. Okay, and both of them can be accessed on the same page. This page, as you can see, is the vendor's proposal page. The clarify button is on the left, the resubmit button is on the right. Clicking on each of them respectively will bring up a different interface. The clarification button does not include opening date and time. The resubmission button does. So you give the vendor a deadline to resubmit their bid. Okay, next we'll show an example of how to issue a proposal clarification. Okay, so this is the proposals received table at the bottom of the Manage View page. Click on the Actions button and View Proposal, and you'll be brought to the vendor's proposal page that we had a screenshot of just now. Okay, you'll notice that there's nothing at the bottom right now, and you can click on the Clarify button, and you'll be able to type in a question. This question will be sent via email to the vendor so that they can respond. You can also add an attachment if you wish, and they will be able to receive and download the attachment. Once you have asked the clarification, you can again scroll down, and you'll notice that there's a new section for clarification, so that this way you can track all of the clarifications that you have made to vendors. As I mentioned, this is what suppliers will see. On the left-hand side, you'll see that they receive an email. Okay, there is a function that allows the suppliers to respond via email. You'll notice that the email address is a special address that allows them to send to write an email, send it in, and the Tenderbot system will receive this email and automatically update your clarification. So they can either reply by email, or they can click on the here word on the left-hand side to go into the system and then respond on the system. In this case, they can type in the answer on the system, attach a file as well, press the submit answer button, and you will receive a notification saying that the supplier has responded to the clarification. Okay, next, what happens for a resubmission? And there are a couple of places that you can do a resubmission. First is via the Manage Deal page, and this is typically used if you're asking more than one vendor to resubmit. So we can treat this as a bit of a shortlisting process. Let's say you have asked two vendors to, you have shortlisted two vendors, okay? And you want them to provide their best and final offer. You can go to the Manage Deal place, click on Resubmit, and ask them to requote accordingly. Okay, again, for resubmissions, unlike clarifications, you will have to enter in a closing date. And the system will treat it as a second tender box scenario. It will not allow you to see the updated bids until the resubmission has closed. You can use the copy button to copy the information over to the rest of the form. Okay, if there are any approvals required, the system will then send the resubmission request to your approver. If not, you will be able to send the resubmission request out directly to the vendors. Okay, so the second place that you can send a resubmission request out is from the vendor's proposal page. And this is where you'll also see the clarify button. So the clarify button is on the left, the resubmit button is on the right. And in this instance, only one vendor will receive the resubmission request. Again, you have to enter in the closing date. You can enter in some instructions, attach a file. And the difference in this case from the manage deal page is you'll only be sending this to the vendor whose proposal page that you are already on. In the event that you have sent suppliers a resubmission instead of a clarification, you'll see that the email that they receive is different. The button in orange says resubmit proposal. And when they click on the link, instead of being able to reply via email, they'll be brought to a resubmission link on the Tenderboard page. What you see on the right-hand side is the bid submission page. In this case, it is used to update a previous quotation. And vendors will only be able to submit their resubmission on the Tenderboard page itself, not via email. Okay, they will have to update any of the prices they put in, update their contact information, attach their quotation again, and send it to you via the platform. Okay, so some common questions that we have here. The first is, I've sent my supplier a resubmission request. Why are they unable to access it? So one of the most common reasons for this is that every resubmission request includes an opening time and a closing time. And your vendors will only be able to access the resubmission request during the opening period until the closing period. Okay, so if they're unable to access the resubmission request, typically what we would suggest is look at the resubmission period. And if it's actually within the resubmission period, you can ask them to contact Tenderboard. Okay. Secondly, the second common question is, my supplier has resubmitted their bid. Why am I not able to see their updated submission yet? Okay, as I mentioned earlier, if you have the confidential submissions functionality, which ensures that bids are hidden during the tender process, okay, you will have to close the active resubmissions by clicking on the close now buttons before you can view their bids. Okay, the reason for this is once you open up a resubmission request, the deal is considered active again. And active deals will have their quotations hidden to ensure that you're not going to see one vendor's price and then inform another vendor, hey, this is the price. This helps to ensure fairness. And then if any suppliers say, hey, there's some problem with the process, you can tell them that no, we are not able to access the bids until the closing time. Okay, last but not least, how can I check if it's a resubmission request or a proposal clarification that was sent to the vendor? So you can go to the communications page and this time go to the tab that says queries to vendors. And this will list both the proposal clarifications as well as the resubmission requests. Okay, all resubmission requests will have information under the resubmission column. So you can see that the first 3 clarifications are resubmission requests. Okay, for proposal clarifications, there will be no resubmission window. So you can see that number 4 is actually a clarification. So in summary, only resubmission requests will have an attached resubmission window. For proposal clarifications, there's no deadline that they need to submit by. Okay, so now back to the common questions. And again, if you have any questions particular to the proposal clarification and resubmission section, feel free to use the Q&A function to ask them now. And after this section, we'll do a more general Q&A. I do see that there are some questions that are asked in a more general sense. And after this, we have a general Q&A section where we can answer the other questions that you have as well.
So we have a few questions coming in for resubmission requests. One of it is if suppliers will be able to amend their resubmitted bid. Okay, so the first question, are suppliers able to update their
resubmitted bid. Unfortunately, the resubmission link will only be valid one time. So if they have made a mistake with their resubmission, they will unfortunately need to inform you, and then you can consider whether to allow them to update their resubmission or not.
So the next question will be if resubmitted bids will be visible while it's still open.
Okay, so this one, I think we've answered the flip side of it, why you cannot see it. So resubmitted bids will only be visible if the confidential submissions setting for your organization is off. Okay, for the large majority of organizations, the confidential submissions functionality, which helps to keep bid submissions confidential until the purchase is closed for evaluation. Most organizations have this setting on, which means that your resubmissions will not be visible until the resubmissions themselves have closed. Okay, I do see another question. If the tender has closed, can you still do clarifications to individual suppliers? Okay, so the answer for this is that actually you can only clarify the suppliers after the tender is closed, but you will be clarifying on their proposals. Okay, which means that when the purchase is open, the system allows you to receive clarifications from suppliers. The suppliers can ask you questions. When you answer them, all vendors are informed. So this is when the tender is open. Everything must be fair, everything must be equal. Okay, once the tender is closed, you have received the proposals from the different vendors. In that case, you must respect the confidentiality of each proposal, and therefore your clarification on each proposal is 1:1. You can ask this particular vendors questions about their proposal, and they will answer you about their proposal. So the answer is yes, you can do clarifications with individual suppliers on their proposals.